In today's video, we have some NHL signings to discuss, including one of the top names left on the free agent market, Marcus Johansson. We'll get into all the latest signings coming up next. Welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. Now we have some news to discuss today regarding some NHL signings. Some of these occurred yesterday. I'm just kind of get caught up here. I want to lump a lot of these into one video. But today we have one of the bigger names signing a free agent contract here, and that's Marcus Johansson. That domino has finally fell. He signed a 2-year contract with the Buffalo Sabres at $4.5 million. Now it's believed under the Johansson contract here that the reason this one took so long is a lot of teams were kind of a little bit scared with his concussion history. He was looking for more term, had negotiated with several other teams, including the Bruins, where he finished the year. There was talk about maybe heading back to his old club, the Washington Capitals, even New Jersey, but ultimately I think his health and his health history here kind of played a role in him having to accept a shorter term. But ultimately Buffalo lands themselves a pretty solid middle six forward. He should be able to play a lot of second line duty there, maybe even third line at times. Either way, he can go up and down the lineup. A pretty nice addition for Buffalo, who's looking to add some depth here at the forward position. So pretty decent contract. I honestly thought Johansson might get a little bit more term, maybe a little bit more money, but I guess after the market dried up after July 1st, that just wasn't quite there. But overall, this is a pretty fair signing here for Buffalo. At least they're not locking in too long term on a player with some concussion history. The Buffalo Sabres also re-signed forward Zemgus Girgensons to a 1-year contract at $1.6 million. Obviously, he's not the player that they really were hoping he'd turn out to be when they drafted him in the first round back in 2012. He certainly struggled quite a bit to find consistency. Hopefully, under new head coach Ralph Krueger, things can get turned around. But I think this $1.6 million is certainly more than fair for what he's been able to bring to the table here to the Sabres. But obviously, they still feel like he's got some potential. He was a restricted free agent, and obviously that contract's really, like I said, it's probably a little bit more than I thought he was going to get, to be completely honest. But overall, we'll see what Krueger can do with Girgensons. I think this might be his last opportunity to really find consistency, or he may find himself without a contract next season. The Columbus Blue Jackets have signed defenseman Scott Harrington to a 3-year contract worth $1.6 million overall for the 3 years, which is pretty decent, really. Harrington's a pretty solid third pair guy. Doesn't see a ton of ice time. Obviously, Columbus has one of the better blue lines around the NHL, which they're going to have to really lean that much more heavily on this year after the exodus we've seen here with their other free agents like Bobrovsky and Duchesne and Panarin and possibly Dzingel here as well. So obviously, this is a pretty solid signing. You don't want to be spending too much on your depth players, and Scott Harrington is a pretty decent third pair guy for this kind of contract. So overall, pretty decent deal here for Columbus. The Montreal Canadiens have signed forward Nick Cousins, who was a restricted free agent forward with Arizona, who did not receive his qualifying offer, thus becoming a unrestricted free agent, signed a 1-year contract at $1 million. Cousins is a pretty decent depth piece. He can play center and he can play wing. I was a little bit surprised Arizona didn't qualify him. His numbers last year with the Coyotes weren't too bad. He played in 81 games and put up 27 points, so for somebody to play near bottom 6 for that kind of price isn't too bad, but I can't help but wonder. I've mentioned this numerous times. The Montreal Canadiens, I do think, are trying to work some other deals here. They do have a lot of players that they've brought in. They have a lot of guys that still need to be signed as well that are their own restricted free agents, so they really have an abundance of players, so I can't help but wonder if a bigger deal might be in the works here for Montreal. The Colorado Avalanche have signed big defenseman Nikita Zadorov to a 1-year contract at $3.2 million. He was a restricted free agent here as well. Also a pretty good signing. That Colorado blue line should be pretty strong here over the next number of years. Now, Zadorov's a player who kind of brings a unique set of skills. Obviously, he's big and strong, can play that physical game. Many had thought earlier in the year that he might be a trade chip, but obviously he's remained here with the Avalanche, and based on the comments from Joe Sakic after the signing, kind of outlined how important he was to that blue line, bringing that different aspect here. Obviously, they traded Tyson Barrie. They do have a lot of other younger offensive-minded defensemen like Makar and Bowen Byram, who they just drafted. Hopefully Connor Timmins can get into the lineup this year, as well as other guys like Samuel Girard. Because of the difference in skill set here, Zadorov certainly plays a unique role, but we'll see if he can sign a longer-term deal with the Avalanche, or if they ultimately do decide to move on. But like I said, where he's a little different, wouldn't be surprised if they can figure out a contract here to keep him in the full longer term after this season. The Tampa Bay Lightning have re-signed forward Cedric Paquette to a 2-year deal at $1.65 million. Paquette's a pretty versatile bottom 6 forward. He can play center and he can play wing. He's been with Tampa now for a little while. Pretty decent role player. So overall, this is a pretty solid signing to keep him in the fold here for the next couple of years in Tampa. Doesn't get a lot of attention because of all the other big names that get with the Lightning here in the forward group that play upper in the lineup ahead of him. But he is a pretty important piece, can play the PK as well as some pretty solid bottom 6 minutes. So there's a pretty good signing here for Tampa. The Vancouver Canucks have re-signed forward Josh Leivo to a 1-year, $1.5 million contract. Obviously, they acquired Josh Leivo from the Maple Leafs last year, and he didn't do too badly during his time in Vancouver. He got into 49 games and put up 18 points, scored some pretty nice goals as well. So overall, I must say, Leivo was a pretty decent acquisition there, pretty solid top 9 forward for Vancouver. It's nice to see him get re-signed. We'll see if he can have another solid year, build some consistency, and see if he works out in the Canucks lineup here longer term. The LA Kings have signed forward Mario Kempe, who was also an Arizona Coyote player previously, was a restricted free agent who did not receive their qualifying offer, thus becoming a UFA, and has now signed a 1-year deal with the Kings at $700K. Wouldn't be shocking to see him end up with their minor league affiliate. His brother Adrian Kempe obviously already plays with the LA Kings, so obviously there'll be another set of brothers playing on the same NHL roster here. But it's like I said, because of this difference in skill set here, it's certainly debatable if Mario gets a lot of opportunity at the NHL level, but either way, he's part of the Kings organization. And lastly here, the Anaheim Ducks have signed forward Andreas Martinson as well. He formerly played with the Chicago Blackhawks for the past couple of years. Obviously somebody who's not going to be playing very high up in the lineup, but a potential useful forward here for the Ducks as they try to build some more depth and create more opportunities here for some different players in their lineup as they try to shake things up. And I'm not really sure we're going to call what the Ducks are going through a bit of a rebuild, but certainly a retool as they work in some younger players and work out some of their veterans. Of course, as always, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on these signings, so let me know down in the comment section what you think, and we'll continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. You'll get all the breaking news on all 31 NHL teams. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.